The house was quiet. Too quiet for a home that had reported a missing child just 30 minutes earlier. Sergeant Alex Kane had cleared insurgent compounds and sniper nests, but nothing in his military training prepared him for what his K-9 partner did next. Echo, his battle-hardened German shepherd, lay flat outside a little girl's bedroom, eyes locked under the bed, body trembling, refusing to move. And then, from inside the room, came the girl's whisper. "He's under the bed, don't let him move." Alex tightened his grip on the flashlight, because Echo never froze. Not unless something was already too close. The snow was still falling when Sergeant Alex Kane parked the cruiser across the street from the silent, dimly lit house. The engine ticked in the cold. Everything about the scene whispered ordinary. A quiet neighborhood. A small brick home. One flickering porch light. Nothing shattered, no sirens screaming, just stillness. But Alex knew better. Beside him in the passenger seat, Echo, his war-trained German shepherd, let out a slow, low growl. Not aggressive. Not confused. That tone meant one thing, alert. Alex stepped out, boots crunching over the dusting of snow. He adjusted his Kevlar vest and reached back to unclip the latch on Echo's harness. The call had come in 20 minutes ago, a neighbor reporting that a child was heard crying through the walls, but no one answered the door. The aunt was listed as the only guardian. Police knocked, rang the bell, called her phone. Nothing. And now, Kane was here. Echo beside him. And that front door? It was open. Just an inch. And swinging gently. Alex gave the quiet hand signal. Echo stepped forward, ears up, muscles tight. A second patrol unit parked down the block, 2 officers staying low and flanking left. Alex approached the porch carefully. No sign of struggle. No blood. No broken windows. The only sound was the light creaking of that door swaying back and forth. He reached it. Placed his hand gently on the wood. It was warm. Warmer than the freezing air around it. And on the inside edge? Scratch marks. Small. Like fingernails. Alex's gut twisted. "Police K-9, he called, pushing the door open slowly. "We're here to help. If you're inside, call out." Silence. He flicked on his shoulder light. The beam cut through the dark living room, floral couch, faded carpet, a coffee table with unopened mail. A TV blinked in the far corner, playing nothing but static. Echo stepped in first, tail rigid and straight. Alex followed, gun drawn but low. There were toys on the floor. A stuffed rabbit. A baby doll, missing an eye. A pink sippy cup tipped on its side, grape juice dried in a ring around it. Everything in the room said child. Everything else screamed no one's here anymore. He scanned left, kitchen, narrow. Lights off. Fridge humming. He scanned right, hallway, dark. 3 doors. Echo moved toward the hall, low to the ground now. Alex followed slowly, listening to the creaks of the floor beneath his boots. The hallway was lined with family photos, a woman with thick glasses and kind eyes. A little girl, maybe 7. Long black hair. Freckles. Same girl in all the frames. Only child? He reached the first door, bathroom. Empty. Second door, shut. Echo walked past it. Then stopped. Right in front of the third door. The one that was slightly ajar. Alex whispered, "Echo?" The dog didn't bark. Didn't growl. He just laid down, slowly, his front paws extending forward, body flat to the ground, eyes fixed into the room. "Echo, heel," Alex tried again, softly. But Echo didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe heavy. His entire body was locked. Alex had seen this once before, in Afghanistan, clearing a collapsed structure. A wounded insurgent had hidden beneath rubble, waiting to ambush. Echo had laid the exact same way then. Refused to enter. Because something inside was dangerous. Alex stepped forward. Pushed the door open wider. The room was a child's. Pink comforter with cartoon rabbits. String lights hung in uneven lines across the wall. Bookshelves with stickers. A purple backpack on the floor. Everything in its place, except for one thing. No child. Not in the bed. Not in the closet. Only one place left. Under the bed. He crouched. The flashlight beam shook slightly as he lowered it. Shoes. A puzzle piece. Dust. And then. A face. Eyes wide open. Looking directly at him. Not screaming. Just watching. Alex froze. Then the whisper came. From under the bed. Barely audible. But clear. He's still here. He's under here with me. Alex's breath caught. Echo let out a single bark, sharp and short. Then went silent again. The girl's voice whispered again. Don't let him out. Please. Don't let him move. Alex leaned closer. There's someone under there with you? He's not real, she whispered. But if he gets out, he'll be real again. Alex pulled back. Every instinct told him to reach under and pull her out. Every inch of his skin crawled. Because she wasn't scared of him. She was scared of what might move if she did. He keyed his mic. Unit 3, we have a live child under the bed. Conscious. Responsive. Requesting child services and psychological support. No answer. Static. He looked down. Echo hadn't moved. Still staring. Eyes now slightly glassy. Like he was trying not to breathe. Something was off. Something deep was wrong. Because Echo didn't freeze. He was trained not to. Alex leaned back toward the bed and whispered, "Okay. We won't move. We're here with you. Can you tell me who he is?" Silence. Then, the faintest shift of fabric under the bed. The tiniest creak of wood. And Echo stood. Snarling now. Teeth bared. But still wouldn't step in. Open. Alex kept one knee on the floor, flashlight trembling in his left hand, his right hovering just above his sidearm. Echo remained rigid, his body pulled taut like a coiled spring. Every inch of him said, "Don't go in." The girl's eyes still stared out from under the bed, wide, watchful, not blinking. Alex cleared his throat, speaking slowly, softly. "What's your name?" A pause. A beat. Then, Mira. She couldn't have been older than 7. "Mira, is anyone else under there with you?" She nodded, just once. Alex's voice dropped. "Who?" Her whisper was barely audible. "Daniel." Alex felt his blood run cold. He looked to Echo, expecting a shift in posture, some movement. Nothing. "Daniel's your brother?" "No." Her eyes didn't leave his. "He was my mother's friend." Alex blinked. That didn't make sense. She said he wasn't real anymore. That she locked him away when I was a baby. Mira blinked once. "But I guess he's back." Echo growled now. Louder. A long, guttural warning. Alex raised his voice a little, not yelling, steady, clear. "Mira, I need you to come out slowly, okay? Keep your head down, and don't." She cut him off. "If I move, he moves." Alex swallowed. The words weren't frightened, they were factual. Like she was telling him something she'd memorized. "Then we won't move yet," he said. "I'm not going to let anything hurt you." Echo shifted position, just a few inches forward, and then dropped his snout to the floor. He wasn't looking under the bed anymore. He was listening. Alex clicked the flashlight off for a second. Total black. Just the cold, steady sound of Echo's breathing. And then, a sound. Under the bed. A second breath. Not Myra's. A slower one. A wheeze. Alex turned the light back on. The beam cut across Myra's shoulder, then something shifted behind her. A blur. Low. Almost human. But not quite. He pulled back quickly. He keyed the mic again. Unit 3, this is Kane. Child located. Potential hostile in confined space. Repeat, possible armed suspect or unknown. I need backup inside. Now. More static. No response. Echo barked once. Sharp. Angry. And then, stopped again. Back to the same position. Mira flinched under the bed. He doesn't like the noise. Alex stared at her. Mira, how do you know Daniel is under there? Her face stiffened. Because he talks when I sleep. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He told me he's waiting for the door to close. Alex looked at the bedroom door. It was open. Maybe 8 inches wide. Not shut. Not swinging. Just there. Waiting. The hallway beyond was silent. No backup. No sound. Just the weight of that door. The chill at Alex's back intensified. He'd cleared buildings before with doors that wouldn't close, doors that creaked on hinges long after the air had stopped moving. But this was different. He stepped forward to push the door wide open, but Echo snarled. Spun. And bit his pant leg. Not hard. Not attacking. Warning. Alex froze. Echo had never bitten. Not even a gentle nip. He looked into his partner's eyes and saw something he'd never seen there before. Terror. Echo let go. Laid back down. Alex slowly let go of his flashlight. His breathing deepened. He looked under the bed again. Mira was crying now, silently, her tears tracing paths through dust on her cheeks. Alex whispered, I'm going to reach for you. She shook her head violently. Don't. He wants you to. Alex pulled back. Suddenly everything felt heavier, the air, the light, even time itself. Like every second was dragging its heels. Where's your mother, Mira? She left, Mira said. She knew he would come back if I opened the box. What box? The one in the closet. Alex turned slightly. Behind him, the closet door, the one he hadn't noticed, creaked open just an inch more. Inside, dark. No movement. No sound. Just darkness. Echo growled again, not at the bed. At the closet. Alex turned the light toward it. There was something inside. Something covered with a blanket. A small chest. Rough. Wooden. He stepped toward it, slowly, as Echo let out a long, warning whine. Inside the chest, a metal latch glinted back. Not locked. Just held shut. He knelt. And heard the breath again. Not from the bed. From the closet itself. He flipped the latch. Lifted the lid. Inside, old children's drawings. A broken photo. A doll. And at the bottom, a notebook. Alex picked it up and flipped it open. The first page read. If I disappear again, it means Daniel is back. Don't trust the light under the bed. Don't close the door. It was signed. Jenna Moreau, January 2005. Alex felt his stomach drop. He knew that name. Jenna Moreau had been reported missing 20 years ago. Same neighborhood. Same street. Never found. Case cold. She would have been the girl's mother. Mira, he said slowly, turning to her again. What was your mother's name? Her voice cracked. Jenna. Echo barked again, louder. Then spun toward the closet. And lay back down. Like before, Alex didn't realize he'd stopped breathing until Echo whined again, shaking hard, deep and desperate. It broke the silence like glass. He exhaled slowly, lowered the flashlight, and stared at the notebook's cover. It was faded leather, brittle at the edges, the stitching fraying like it had been hidden a long time, maybe since 2005, when Jenna Moreau disappeared from the exact same house he now stood in. Same street. Same layout. Same closet. He flipped the second page. Myra's mother had written in tight, uneven lines, as if she was scribbling between heartbeats. Daniel told me the bed would be safe. But only if I stayed under. And only if I didn't speak. He doesn't like echoes. Echoes make him fade. The longer I hide, the louder he gets. Alex blinked at that line, echoes make him fade. Did she mean sounds? Or something else? He looked at the dog again. Echo was trembling now, not from cold, but restraint. His instincts were clashing with something more primal, a fear Kane couldn't understand. He turned back to the book. If I ever have a daughter, and she finds this, tell her I didn't leave. I just couldn't move anymore. The final line was underlined twice. Don't shut the door. A loud creak snapped Alex's head around. The bedroom door, it had shifted. Not much. But it was closing. Very slowly. He rose in an instant. Echo! Stay! He moved fast, reached the door, and pushed it fully open again. It resisted at first, like he was forcing it through molasses. The hinges let out a groan, not mechanical, something more like breath. Once open, the hallway stared back, empty, still. But the moment the door hit the stop, the closet door behind him slammed shut. Echo leapt back. The bark that came out wasn't trained. It was wild. Primal. A sound Kane had never heard from his partner. He rushed to the closet. Pulled the door open again. The chest inside had moved. Pushed half a foot toward the edge. The notebook slipped from his hand. Pages flipping. Stopping on one. A drawing. Childlike, but with dark precision, a bed. A girl under it. And something else. Eyes. Just eyes, wide, white, sketched in layers of black crayon. Behind them, a figure. Tall. Limbs bent wrong. No face. Only the eyes. Alex looked at the bed again. Mira, he said quietly. Is Daniel under there right now? The girl didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, she whispered. He's not always under. Sometimes he's on the ceiling. Alex jerked the flashlight up instinctively, scanning the ceiling. Nothing. Just pale paint, shadows from the string lights. But Echo growled again, not at the bed. At the wall. Alex moved to Myra's side now. She hadn't moved an inch. Still curled up. Still staring past him. Her pupils were dilated too wide for the light in the room. Mira, he said gently. Do you want to come out? I can't. Why? Because the moment I do, he moves. Alex swallowed. Did your mother ever come out? The girl's lip quivered. She did once. Just once. When she thought he was gone. He crouched lower. What happened? Myra's voice cracked. She didn't make it to the door. Echo barked again. This time, toward the window. Alex turned. The glass was fogged, and on the inside, a fresh smear. 4 finger marks. Thin. Long. Fresh. He bolted forward, yanked the curtains aside, flashlight up. But no one was there. Outside, the street was still, untouched. Back inside, the temperature had dropped. Fast. Breath hung in the air now. Alex turned to Echo. The dog had backed to the wall, now looking straight at the ceiling again. But this time, Alex saw it too. Not shape. Not form. Just shadow. An irregular one. Like something hunched against the ceiling beam. Motionless. Watching. His instinct screamed to reach for Mira and run. But his training told him not to move. And Echo still hadn't crossed the threshold. He remembered the line in the journal. Echoes make him fade. He crouched and spoke softly, "Echo." The dog didn't look at him. Still growling. Still focused. But then. A shift. Just slight. Echo's growl became a whine. A sharp pitch. And the shadow twitched. Just a flicker. But Mira screamed. Not loud. More like a gasp. He felt that. Alex whispered, "Echo, whine again." The dog tilted his head. Confused. Then let out another high-pitched tone. The shadow shuddered. Pulled back. Like retreating into a corner. Mira looked up now. Hope in her face for the first time. Again. Echo whined. Higher. Louder. And the air in the room vibrated. The walls creaked. The lights flickered. The shadow on the ceiling rippled, like heat off asphalt. Mira screamed again, but this time it was a scream of hope. "It's working." Alex grabbed the journal and called, "Echo," again. But the dog hesitated. Body shaking. Mouth open. Whine stuck in his throat. Eyes wide now, staring straight at Alex. Pleading. Because Echo could see something Alex couldn't. And it was between them. Alex's hand trembled slightly as he backed toward Echo. The journal was still in his grip, the final pages fluttering like wind caught inside the room, though no window was open. His eyes flicked toward the ceiling, where a faint outline had begun to form. No definition. Just density. A thickening of the air. Like light refused to pass through that one patch of ceiling. Echo snarled again, low and guttural. Mira whimpered beneath the bed, still watching, still listening. He's close now. Too close. Alex took a slow breath and crouched beside Echo, placing one hand gently on the canine's neck. The dog was vibrating with tension, ears forward, pupils wide. "I need you with me, boy," Alex whispered. Echo's head snapped toward the bed. Then toward the closet. Then back toward the ceiling. Whatever this thing was, it moved without moving. Alex flipped through the journal again, forcing himself to read through the shaking. One page had no text. Just a diagram. A triangle. At each corner, bed. Closet. Ceiling. A closed loop. In the center of the triangle, a circle with a single word inside. Anchor. On the bottom margin, Jenna had written. He moves inside the loop. The anchor keeps him in place. If the anchor breaks, the loop fails. Alex's voice was barely a whisper. "What's the anchor?" Mira responded softly. "Echo." Alex froze. "You mean the dog?" She nodded once. "Mom said Echo is a breaker. Not just a soldier. He's echoes of memory. She said he holds the loop." "But how?" "She said he remembers things humans don't. Sounds we forgot. Places we left behind. That's why he's dangerous to Daniel." Alex's blood ran cold. This was no ordinary story. Myra's mom had left her trained. Prepared. But not protected. The ceiling pulsed again. A shape trying to become real. Echo stood. stepped forward, and barked, loud, sharp, echoing through the house. The shadow reeled back. But the door slammed. Boom. The whole room shook. Lights burst in the hallway behind Alex. Mira screamed. Alex reached under the bed this time, full force, grabbing Myra's arm. "I've got you." "No," she cried. "If you pull me." Too late. He dragged her out. Instantly, the closet door burst open. The chest inside rattled violently. And from the ceiling, a low moan emerged. Not a voice. Not mechanical. Something like wind run backward through a tunnel. Echo lunged, toward the closet now, barking uncontrollably. Alex pulled Mira against his chest, backing them toward the hallway. "Echo, out!" The dog turned, teeth bared, eyes wild. But followed. They crossed the threshold, into the hallway. As soon as they did, everything stopped. No more sound. No more vibration. The cold dissipated. Mira sobbed into Alex's jacket. Echo whined, pacing, but no longer trembling. Alex closed the journal. Every part of him screamed to leave the house. But something about the silence, made him stay. He turned to Mira. "Is this what happened to your mom?" Mira nodded. "She stayed too long. Trying to stop him." "Why didn't you tell someone?" "She tried. They thought she was crazy. She left me with my aunt. But when the aunt left last night, the box opened. I tried not to look. I tried not to remember." Alex asked, "Why was your mom's name never on the missing person case?" Mira hesitated. "She came back." Alex blinked. "What?" "She came back after they said she was gone. But she wasn't her anymore." Echo growled again, not deep, just enough to say, "Listen." Alex stood. His radio cracked. Finally. "Unit 3, this is dispatch. What's your status?" He clicked it instantly. "Dispatch, this is Kane. I have a recovered juvenile. Scene not secure. Unknown phenomena. I need immediate backup with thermal and canine support. Mark perimeter as red, do not enter alone." A pause. Static. Then. "Understood. ETA 6 minutes. Perimeter lockdown initiating." He turned to Mira. "We're getting you out." She nodded. But didn't smile. Just looked back at the bedroom door. "Don't let it close," she whispered. Alex turned. The door had drifted halfway shut again. He stepped toward it, slowly, placed the journal between the frame and the jamb. Then walked backward. Back to Mira. Back to Echo. The front door was within view now. Moonlight spilled in through the frosted glass. Outside, safety. Inside, stillness. He opened the door, wind howled in. Sharp. Icy. Mira flinched. Echo stopped. His ears dropped. Alex froze. There was breath again, behind him. Slow. Close. Measured. He didn't turn. Just stepped out, Mira in his arms, Echo behind them. And the door? It slammed shut. The cold slapped them the second they crossed the threshold. Alex tightened his grip on Mira, feeling her small hands clutching his jacket like a lifeline. Echo was the last out of the house, tail rigid, head lowered, not in retreat, but in protection. Outside, blue and red lights swirled down the street as backup units pulled up. 3 officers jumped out, followed by a child services counselor wrapped in a thick coat. She moved toward Alex with a blanket already in her hands. "Is that the girl?" she asked. Alex nodded, breath sharp. "Her name is Mira. She's safe now, physically. The counselor gently wrapped the blanket around Myra's shoulders. Mira looked at her for a moment, then turned back to Alex. "You won't leave, right?" Alex knelt, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Not until I know he's gone." She didn't smile. She just nodded. The lead officer approached next. "What the hell happened in there?" Alex shook his head. "Hard to explain. Nothing's broken. No attacker. But something in that house doesn't want to be found." "Like what?" "Ever heard of Jenna Moreau?" The officer's eyes narrowed. "That cold case? Girl who vanished when she was 13. She came back." The officer scoffed. "You sure?" Alex held up the journal. "I have her handwriting. Her warnings. Her daughter." The officer's mouth opened, then closed again. "This is above my clearance level." "Then elevate it." They placed Mira in the patrol car with warm air and soft light. The counselor sat with her, gently asking questions. Alex stayed nearby, arms crossed, eyes on the house. Echo sat at his feet now, silent, still. But his ears twitched with every gust of wind. Alex crouched and scratched behind his ear. "What do you think, partner? That thing, Daniel, wasn't a man, was it?" Echo didn't move. Just stared. Back toward the house. Then Alex's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated. Answered. A woman's voice, raspy, calm. "You found her." He stood straighter. "Who is this?" "I'm the one who taught Jenna. Back when I was like her. Like Mira." Alex walked a few feet away from the officers. "Where are you calling from?" "You don't need to know that. You just need to know Daniel isn't bound to that house." His grip on the phone tightened. "What do you mean?" "He moves with memory. With fear. The more attention you give him, the more foothold he gets." Alex's mouth was dry. So removing Mira was step one. "But he knows you now." Silence. Then, "Tell your dog to stay close. He'll protect more than you realize." The line went dead. Alex stared at the screen. No trace. No callback option. Just, gone. He turned back to the cruiser. Mira was asleep now, small hands clutched around the stuffed rabbit that had been recovered from her room. The counselor mouthed through the window, "She's okay." Alex nodded. But his gut said otherwise. He made his way back to the porch. Officers had taped off the door, placed warning signs, started taking photos. But none of them would know what to photograph. Not when the threat wasn't physical. He approached the doorway and peeked inside. Still. Calm. But something in the shadows seemed to shift when it saw him. Like the house recognized him now. Echo whined at his side. Alex backed away. Later that night, reports were filed. Mira was placed into protective custody with extended psychiatric support. The house was locked. Unlisted. Marked as non-operational, pending structural review. But Alex knew the truth. And so did Echo. Back home, Alex fed Echo in silence. Then sat on the couch and opened the journal again. He turned to the final page. There, in handwriting that hadn't been there earlier, were 3 words. "He knows you." Alex dropped the book. Echo barked, loud, aggressive. Ran to the front door. Teeth bared. Nothing outside. But Alex saw it. Just for a second. In the window reflection. A tall, narrow shadow. Watching. He picked up his phone. Dialed the number from before. This time, it went through. But a message played. "If you've seen him, it's too late to forget. Stay near the Echo. Or he'll become real." He hung up. Looked at Echo. The dog was trembling. Not in fear. In readiness. Like war had come home. The night dragged on as Alex sat in his kitchen, staring at his phone screen. The message from the mysterious woman echoed in his mind. If you've seen him, it's too late to forget. He looked at the clock, 3:17 a.m. Echo lay by the door, still on high alert, eyes trained on the hallway. Alex rubbed his face. His military instincts were never wrong, but they weren't trained for this. This force. He stood and grabbed his jacket. He needed to return to the house. There were more questions than answers. The walk from his car to the house felt longer in the cold. Echo was next to him, walking with the steady, silent pace that Alex had come to rely on. His dog had never been afraid of a fight, but something had changed after that first night, something deeper than fear. They arrived at the house. The lights were still off, the street quiet, but the house, it felt alive. The porch seemed darker, the shadows stretching unnaturally across the front yard. Alex unlocked the door, stepping inside. Echo hesitated at the threshold, then slowly crossed the threshold. They entered the living room, the same toys, the same stillness. Nothing's changed, Alex muttered. Not yet. But as he stepped into the hallway, the air felt thick. Like it had weight. Echo whined, low and guttural, then stopped in front of the door to Myra's room. His hackles rose. Alex's gut twisted. Not again. The door was still ajar, the same slight opening. He turned the handle and pushed it open slowly. Inside, everything looked untouched. The bed was still in place, the toy rabbit on the floor. And then Alex noticed it. On the floor next to the bed, beneath the string lights, was a new object. A doll. But this wasn't a typical doll. It was made of something strange, too familiar. The face was crudely painted, a terrifyingly wide smile stretched across the face. But its eyes were hollow, and the hands, they were far too long, fingers bent unnaturally. Echo growled, low and steady. Alex's throat tightened. He walked toward the doll, crouching down to inspect it. The face seemed to stare at him, almost alive. He picked it up, feeling the chill of its porcelain skin. Behind it, there was a note. He flipped it over. He's waiting for the door to close. Alex's blood ran cold. That same warning from Myra's mother. Not again, Alex whispered to himself. Echo growled louder. His head jerked toward the closet. Not at the door, but at the corner, where the air seemed too still. Alex followed Echo's gaze. There, in the corner, where the light barely reached, was a shadow. A figure, but not quite a figure. No features. Just a silhouette. It stood still, as if waiting. Alex stood frozen, staring at the shape. A memory came flooding back, of war zones and shadows in the dark. Of danger not yet revealed. Echo, heel, Alex said, his voice shaking more than he expected. The dog didn't move. He was locked. Alex stepped forward cautiously. The shape in the corner didn't move. It was like watching a shadow breathe, slow, controlled. Alex reached for his radio, but it was dead. Static. He cursed under his breath. Echo's growl grew more intense. What is it, boy? Alex whispered. Echo stood still, his eyes never leaving the shape. But then the shape moved. A flicker. Just enough to confirm it wasn't a trick of the light. It stepped forward, one deliberate motion, and Alex froze. It wasn't human. Not entirely. Its limbs were elongated, jerking unnaturally. The face wasn't a face at all. Just a hollow emptiness. Echo barked. Alex aimed his flashlight directly at it. The shape paused. Then, it smiled. A wide, grotesque grin, with no lips, just a jagged line of teeth. Teeth that were too sharp, too many. Alex's blood ran cold. It was moving now, toward him, but only sliding, like it wasn't walking but gliding over the floor. The air grew colder, the room darker. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, creeping like tendrils. Alex didn't wait. He grabbed Echo's collar and pulled him back, running toward the front door, but Echo snarled, pulling against him. "What's wrong, boy? Let's go." But Echo wouldn't move. Instead, he stood his ground, growling louder, pacing toward the corner again. His eyes never left the shadow. Alex spun around, confused, desperate. "Echo!" But as he turned, his foot caught on the rug, and he fell forward, slamming into the floor. The flashlight flew from his hand, spinning in the air. The room went dark. The air felt heavier, like the house itself was suffocating. Echo barked again, frantic now, but the shadow didn't respond. Instead, it stepped forward, and Alex saw something he hadn't noticed before. A hand. Long fingers, too long, reaching out toward the doorway. The door that had been left ajar. Then the voice. A soft whisper, barely audible. "It's time for the door to close." Alex didn't think. He lunged for the door, slamming it shut with everything he had. The shadow stopped. Everything went still. The weight in the air lifted, and the temperature began to rise. Echo stopped barking. Alex breathed heavily, his body trembling. He looked back at the door, still closed. He looked down at Echo. The dog was still shaking, but now, his body was relaxed, the tension had lifted. Alex felt the weight of what had happened. The shadow hadn't followed. It had disappeared. But he didn't know for how long. The door remained shut, but the air in the room felt thick, like the walls had absorbed something, like it wasn't just cold but laden with a presence. Alex's heartbeat thudded in his chest, his breath shallow. He kept his hand on Echo's collar, waiting, listening, watching for any movement. Echo, still tense, turned his head toward Alex. His ears twitched. His eyes locked on something just past Alex's shoulder. But Alex couldn't see it. The shadow. It wasn't there anymore. At least, not where it had been. He slowly stood, keeping his eyes trained on the door, the walls, the corners of the room. But there was nothing. No unnatural movement. No flickering of light. Just silence. And cold. "Echo," Alex whispered, his voice hoarse. "Stay with me, buddy." The dog shifted at his side, now more alert than ever, his body stiff and braced for something, anything. Alex had never seen him so on edge. He took a step forward. The floorboards creaked under his boots, and his skin prickled. Nothing. Another step. And then, just as he was about to cross the threshold back into the hallway, the lights flickered. Not just the lights. The entire room seemed to shudder. Echo barked, low and deep. Alex turned sharply, his heart leaping into his throat. The door, the bedroom door, slowly creaked open. Not from the wind. Not from gravity. The door moved on its own. The space beyond the door was black. Darker than it should have been. No moonlight. No street lamp. Just darkness. And in that darkness, something moved. It wasn't a shape. It wasn't a figure. It was air. Condensing. Growing. The dark shadows from the ceiling bled down toward the floor. In the corner of the room, the air shimmered. Alex's breath hitched. A voice, whispering from the shadows. "I'm not real, until you see me." The voice wasn't a whisper. It was a promise. A threat. Alex backed away. His mind screamed run. The primal part of his brain told him this wasn't just a creature, it was something older. Something far more ancient than a man or an entity. Echo stood firm, his hackles raised, his growl almost a howl now. The dog's body trembled with the weight of the atmosphere pressing in on them. Echo! Alex muttered, but his words were drowned by the sheer force of the air around him. The shadow in the doorway expanded, taking the shape of something long. Twisted limbs with unnatural angles. Its hands, too long, gripped the doorframe like it was climbing. Alex's stomach churned. A cold sweat formed on his brow. The dog barked again, harder now, more desperate. Echo lunged forward, but Alex grabbed the collar and pulled him back. The shadow, no, the thing, stopped. It froze. It was waiting. For something. Alex didn't know what. It's not real. Not anymore. Myra's voice echoed in his head. It's not real, he thought. Not real. This thing was tied to memory. To pain. To the house. His gaze darted to the wall. The closet. The strange, elongated chest he had seen earlier. The figure in the doorway twitched again. And then, as though it were speaking directly to Alex's mind, it whispered. You remember the moment you first saw me? The first breath of fear. Alex staggered back, eyes wide, trying to block the memories from resurfacing. The sound of his mother's voice, faint whispers of pain, his own childhood, flashes of memories long buried under years of service, duty, war. The shadow stretched toward him. The room around him grew cold, suffocating. His skin prickled with the realization. It wasn't just watching. It was waiting. Echo, Alex whispered. He felt his heart racing in his chest. Echo, stay close. The dog barked once, as if understanding that it wasn't just a threat in the room anymore. The entity knew. It knew him. The shadow whispered again, its voice barely audible over the crackling tension in the room. You all remember. The house doesn't let you forget. Not even after all these years. Alex gritted his teeth. The moment he saw the thing wasn't a moment in time. It was tied to something more. Something suffocating. It had been in the house before. Long before Mira. Long before Jenna. Alex stepped forward, pushing against the oppressive air. He could feel the weight of it, pressing against his lungs, making it harder to breathe. But he wasn't afraid of the thing. He was afraid of what it represented. The past. The things they wanted to forget. He spoke through clenched teeth. I'm not running. The figure paused. It wasn't expecting that. He took another step forward, feeling the darkness pulling at him, but he didn't stop. One hand on Echo's collar, the other pulling the flashlight tighter in his grip. The thing spoke, its voice low, like wind. You can't fight me, Sergeant Kane. I was here before you. I will be here long after you're gone. That's when he knew what he had to do. He didn't fight. He didn't run. He took one step toward the closet. The chest. Echo pulled against his grip. No. But Alex wouldn't stop. He couldn't. This thing, it thrived on fear. On the memories it created. It needed him to run. He reached for the chest. The moment his hand touched it, the room snapped into chaos. The walls twisted. Echo howled. The air rushed out of the room with an overwhelming sound, not a scream, but a deep, primal roar reverberating from the depths of the house. The shadows twisted around him, pulling him toward the floor. The chest cracked open. But nothing was inside. Nothing but the void. And in the dark? The eyes. Alex's heart pounded as the darkness seemed to swallow him whole. He stood in the center of the room, his hands still resting on the chest. The air around him buzzed with tension, a thick, unnatural energy that hummed through the walls and floor. Echo growled low and steady, his body trembling at his side. The shadow, shifted again, and Alex's mind raced. He had felt this before. This presence. It was ancient, layered in memories that shouldn't have been his. He pulled his hand back from the chest, breathing hard, trying to steady himself. It wasn't the dark that frightened him. It was what the dark carried with it, the memories, the truths that had been buried deep inside him. He had felt the weight of them when he first entered the house, but now, they were pressing harder, dragging him into a past he thought he'd left behind. The shadow in the doorway was no longer just a silhouette. It was becoming something more solid, more defined, its limbs stretching unnaturally long, its body twisting like smoke around a flame. It was waiting. But for what? Alex gritted his teeth. He didn't have time to wonder. Whatever it wasn't just haunting the house. It was feeding on them. He took a step back, but the room shifted. The walls seemed to move toward him, and the air felt heavier, pressing against his chest. His legs grew weak as the memories began to surface, memories of things he hadn't thought about in years, of faces, of pain, of loss. "Do you remember?" The voice, low and cold, echoed in his mind. It wasn't coming from the figure in front of him. It was coming from the house itself. He shook his head, trying to clear it, but the words wouldn't leave. "Do you remember the first time you saw me?" Alex's breath caught in his throat. The voice, it sounded familiar. It wasn't the shadow speaking. It was Daniel's voice. Or rather, the voice of the thing Daniel had once been. It had once been human, hadn't it? It had a past, a memory of its own. And now it had latched onto his. Echo's growl intensified, but Alex couldn't tear his eyes away from the shadow. The thing was coming closer, its distorted limbs crawling across the floor like they were made of liquid, bending in unnatural ways. The edges of its form seemed to shimmer, like it was caught between two worlds. "You're not afraid, are you?" The voice was quieter now, almost amused. "You've seen worse. Haven't you?" Alex's hands clenched into fists. It was true. He had seen things in combat, things that haunted him every night, things that made him wonder if his soul had been scarred beyond repair. But this wasn't war. This wasn't something he could fight with weapons. This was something far darker, far more ancient. Something tied to memory. Alex felt a sudden rush of understanding. It wasn't just a haunting. It wasn't just a shadow that had been bound to the house. It had been bound to him. To Echo. The journal. The things Mira had said. Jenna Morrow's warnings. It was all tied together. The shadows, the memories, the house, it was all a trap. And the trap had been set for him. Echo barked again, snapping Alex out of his trance. "Stay close," Alex muttered, barely hearing his own voice. He turned to look at Echo, but the dog wasn't looking at him anymore. Echo's eyes were locked on the shadow, staring with unwavering focus. Alex stepped forward, his feet heavy on the floor, as if the house was trying to hold him in place. The thing in the doorway seemed to shimmer again, as if it was becoming more real, more present. It wasn't just a shadow now. It had shape. It had substance. And its eyes, those hollow, white eyes, were fixed on him. "Do you remember?" The voice was louder now, pressing in on him. "The first time we met, Sergeant Kane? You were just a boy, fresh out of training. You had no idea who I was, but I knew you." Alex's knees buckled, and he fell to the floor. His head was spinning, memories flooding back. He had seen this figure before. Not just once. Over and over again. It had been there during the darkest moments of his life. During his first deployment. His first battle. The first time he lost someone. It had always been there, lurking, watching. The shadow took a step forward. The air grew colder. "You can't fight me, Alex. You've always known me. You've always been mine. Alex's breath came in short, shallow gasps. His body trembled, but he forced himself to his feet. He couldn't give in. Not now. Not after everything he'd survived. You have two choices, the voice continued, its tone colder now, more sinister. You can let me in, let me finish what we started. Or you can fight, and I'll make sure it's the last fight you ever have. Alex's hand went to his sidearm, but it felt heavy, wrong. No weapon could stop this thing. This wasn't a fight of flesh and bone. This was a fight of memories. He looked at Echo, standing firm, still growling, still waiting. Echo wasn't afraid. I remember, Alex said through gritted teeth, his voice shaking but steady. I remember everything. The shadow paused. Then you know, the voice whispered. You know what you have to do. Alex didn't hesitate. He reached for the chest again, his fingers fumbling with the latch. It didn't matter if it wasn't real. If it was tied to his memories, to his pain, he would not let it win. Not now. The moment his fingers touched the latch, the room exploded in a rush of cold air, slamming him backward against the wall. The house seemed to shudder as though it were alive. The shadow reached out, but Echo was faster. The dog lunged, teeth bared, and for the first time, Alex saw it, the thing moved backward, recoiling from the dog's fury. Echo was the key. Alex pushed himself to his feet and grabbed the journal. You're not real, he whispered to himself, feeling the weight of his words. Suddenly, the air lightened. The shadows pulled back. The room was still. And the house was silent again. The room was still. The air had cleared, the oppressive weight of the shadow lifting like fog after a storm. Echo stood still in front of Alex, still tense, but his body was no longer rigid with fear. The growl had stopped. Alex's heart was racing, but he didn't know if it was from the physical exertion or the truth he had just unearthed. He stood still for a moment, staring at the shadow that had once filled the room. Now, it was nothing. Just empty space. The walls, the floor, everything was ordinary again. But nothing felt ordinary. Alex looked down at the journal in his hand, his fingers still tingling from the sensation of opening it. The journal had always been a key, but what had it unlocked? His thoughts were interrupted by Echo, who stepped forward, closer to the chest. The dog sniffed at it once more, his body still on edge. Alex knelt, his fingers trembling slightly as he placed the journal on the floor beside the chest. He reached for the latch again, slower this time, as though unsure of what he might find. The chest creaked open. Inside, the same dark emptiness stared back at him. But this time, the shadow didn't rush to fill the space. There were no sudden shifts, no jarring movements. Only, quiet. He leaned closer, staring down at the contents of the chest, but it wasn't empty anymore. The object was no longer just a piece of furniture. A photograph. Alex's breath caught in his throat. It was an old photograph, its edges worn, crinkled from time. He picked it up gently, the corners trembling under his fingertips. The faces in the photograph were familiar. Jenna Moreau. The woman he had seen in the files. The one who had disappeared. But there was another figure in the picture. A man standing behind her. Not Daniel. Not the entity that had haunted them. It was Alex. His mind raced as he looked at the photograph again. The younger version of himself, standing next to Jenna in what looked like a park, her hand resting on his shoulder. Her expression was a mix of joy and fear. There was something in her eyes, something deep that Alex couldn't place. But what hit him hardest was the date written on the back of the photo. 2005, the day you left. The day he left for his first deployment. Alex felt the ground beneath him shift. The past was never truly buried. The house hadn't just been holding memories, it had been feeding on them. Every step he had taken, every battle he had fought, every loss he had suffered, it had all been part of the pattern. The shadow wasn't a thing from the house. It was a thing from his own mind. "Echo," he whispered. The dog sat by his side, head tilted, eyes focused on the photograph in his hand. His body was tense again, but it wasn't just from the presence of the shadow. It was from the weight of Alex's own realization. Alex closed his eyes, and the memories came rushing back. The sound of boots on gravel, the distant hum of helicopters, the smoke, the fire, the screams. The promises he had made to himself. The things he thought he had left behind when he returned from deployment. But here it was. The truth was that the house, and everything tied to it, was part of his own trauma. The shadow wasn't just a manifestation of some outside force. It had always been with him, feeding off his fear, his guilt. It was part of him. It was his creation. He sat back, breath coming hard now, his chest tightening. No more running. The only way to end this was to face what had happened, to confront the past. To face Daniel, the shadow that had taken form from Alex's own buried memories. He turned to Echo. "We're not leaving until we finish this. Together." Echo whined softly, his eyes still fixed on the photo in Alex's hand. Alex rose to his feet, taking the photo with him. He looked at the chest one last time and closed it with a firm click. He didn't need to open it again. The truth was out now. It wasn't the house that needed to be destroyed. It was the memory. The door to the bedroom creaked once more. Alex's eyes narrowed. The shadow was still there. But this time, it wasn't in the doorway. It was inside. The figure stood in the corner of the room, its limbs extended unnaturally, eyes still hollow and empty. The face, or what passed for one, was turned toward Alex. Alex didn't flinch. This time, he understood. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," Alex said firmly, his voice steady. The shadow didn't move. It just watched him. Silent. Then, a voice that wasn't his own echoed through the room. "You were never supposed to remember." Alex's grip tightened on the photo. He turned to Echo. "We end this now." The room shook again, the walls trembling as if they were about to collapse. But Alex didn't back down. He walked toward the shadow, toward the thing that had shaped his nightmares. And Echo followed. The shadow reached out as if it could take him, but Alex didn't move. He raised the photo high. "This is my memory now." The shadow froze. For the first time, it hesitated. Echo growled, low and steady. His body stiffened, his eyes locked on the figure. "You have no power over me anymore," Alex continued, stepping forward, never breaking eye contact with the shadow. "You were born from my fear. And now, you die with it." The shadow recoiled, the edges of its form flickering, growing weaker. "You can't erase me." "Watch me," Alex said, and he ripped the photograph in half. In that instant, the room exploded with light. The walls rattled violently, and the shadow let out a deafening scream, not in sound, but in feeling, a wave of fear and power so overwhelming that Alex staggered back. But Echo stood firm. The shadow writhed and twisted, its form shrinking until it was nothing more than a whisper in the air. And then, nothing. Alex's chest heaved as the room fell into silence. No more shadow. No more fear. He exhaled, finally free from the house's grip. The house was still. The walls, once creaking with unseen pressure, now stood silent. The floorboards, once heavy with the weight of memories, seemed to breathe easier. For the first time since Alex had stepped inside, it felt like the house was simply a house. No more shadows. No more watching eyes. No more fear. Alex stood still, his body exhausted but his mind clear. The photograph, now torn in two pieces, lay crumpled in his hand. He had faced it. confronted the darkness that had been locked away in his memories for so long. He had seen it, the thing he had buried deep in his subconscious, the thing that had haunted him for years, had tried to tear him apart. But now, it was gone. Echo stood at his side, still alert but less tense. The growl that had once been a constant companion had finally faded. The dog, once on edge, now seemed at peace. It was as if the bond between them had been reforged in the crucible of battle. Alex reached down and patted Echo's head, a small smile breaking through his usual stoicism. "We did it, boy." Echo wagged his tail once, his eyes softening. He was still a soldier, still the trained warrior that Alex had trusted through countless missions. But now, he was something else. Something more. Alex turned his attention to the door. The room was clearing now, the shadows pulling back into the corners of the house, leaving only the familiar walls of the bedroom. He moved toward the door and pulled it open, stepping out into the hall. The world beyond the house had not changed, but something inside him had. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt the weight of the past lift off his shoulders. Mira was sitting in the patrol car, wrapped tightly in a blanket, her eyes closed in quiet exhaustion. The child services counselor was speaking gently to her, but Myra's gaze was distant. She had been through something no child should ever have to face. But now, at least, she was safe. Alex walked over, stopping beside the car. He glanced at the counselor. "She's okay?" he asked, his voice rough. The counselor nodded, offering a small, reassuring smile. "She's been through a lot, but she's in good hands now." Alex's gaze drifted to Mira. The little girl had her knees drawn to her chest, her face pale, but there was a sense of peace in her expression now, as if the weight she had been carrying had been lifted, even if only for a moment. Is she going to be all right?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The counselor hesitated before answering. "It'll take time. She'll need therapy, a support system, but she's resilient. She has you, and she has Echo. That counts for a lot." Alex nodded, swallowing hard. The truth hit him then. It wasn't just that Mira was safe. It was that he had saved her. The thing that had tormented her, the thing that had nearly consumed him, was no longer there. He turned back toward the house, a lingering look at the place where it had all begun. The house that had played host to so many memories, but not the memories it had wanted him to relive. Now, it was just a house. In the distance, the sun was beginning to rise. Its rays pierced the horizon, casting a soft glow across the quiet street. The storm of the past few days, both literal and metaphorical, was over. But Alex knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. He made his way back to his car, Echo at his side. As he opened the door and slid behind the wheel, he turned to look at the dog. "You did good, Echo. I'm proud of you." The dog's tail wagged again, and he let out a soft whine, as if in acknowledgement. Alex smiled faintly. He couldn't deny it anymore. The bond between them had always been something unspoken, a connection forged through their shared experiences in the field. But this was different. They had fought side by side against something that no one could have predicted. And they had both come out stronger for it. Alex started the engine and drove away from the house. The lights of the police cars had faded into the distance, and the quiet of the morning stretched out before him. Mira was safe. Echo was safe. And for the first time in years, he was beginning to feel like he might be too. But as the miles passed, as the familiar landscape of the city appeared in the distance, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the past wasn't as far behind him as he wanted to believe. "You can't forget me, Alex." The voice echoed in his mind, distant but undeniable. He didn't turn his head, didn't look back at the house. He couldn't. But he knew that the shadow was never really gone. Not entirely. It had always been with him, lurking in the spaces between memories, in the places he least expected. For now, though, it was quiet. And that was enough. As he drove, Echo rested his head on Alex's leg, content for the moment. And for the first time in a long time, Alex felt the silence not as a threat, but as a release. The battle wasn't over. But it was a new day. And that was all he needed.